All right, RFK Jr., the environmental lawyer who has no medical degree, who's never studied medicine, and is somehow the head of the Health and Human Services Department in the United States, has released his long-awaited Make America Healthy Again report. This big report that's supposed to show why adults are chronically ill and what we can do to protect children from getting chronically ill. It pushes toward a lot of baseless conspiracy theories on vaccines and medications that children or other adults in the country are being prescribed and all these different things. And RFK Jr. got brutally exposed today by a nonprofit, nonpartisan group that clearly showed that the MAHA report, or the Make America Healthy Again report, is citing studies that do not exist. And in this article, they are literally calling doctors, reaching out to doctors who are in the MAHA report saying, hey, you're cited here as a source of something, a paper that was published. Did you write this? And I'm saying, no, I've never heard of that in my life. Citation links that are broken. It's crazy. And I'm so happy that a nonprofit, nonpartisan group made this happen because it is going to save lives. I know it. People being aware of these things. Before we get into that, I want to zoom out a little bit and see the realities of what's already happening just in the last few days with RFK Jr., the CDC, and how, things like the MAHA report are affecting Americans' lives. Just in the last 2-3 days, the U.S. will no longer recommend COVID shots for children and pregnant women. Health Secretary RFK Jr. upended decades of standard protocol and announcing that the vaccine would be dropped in the immunization schedule for healthy children. The COVID vaccine will no longer be recommended for healthy children or healthy pregnant women, ending a pandemic-era policy aimed at protecting all Americans from the coronavirus. Health Secretary RFK Jr. announced a new policy on Tuesday, saying the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention would drop its years-long guidance that the vaccine be offered to children 6 months and older. He also withdrew the additional recommendation for immunizing pregnant women, intended to shield mothers and younger infants who can be at higher risk of severe illness. And he announced this in a video on Twitter. And throughout this article, you see actual doctors, people that we should be praising in our communities who have spent decades of their lives studying medicine, come out ferociously against this, understandably so, because it's going to cost lives. This is one of the quotes I really like in this article. Dr. Denise Jameson, who is on the immunization committee of the ACOG and an advisor to the CDC on vaccines. Again, somebody who is a million times more qualified to talk about this than RFK Jr., noted that pregnant women were at a higher risk of hospitalization, including intensive care and of dying. COVID infection during pregnancy is also associated with a number of adverse pregnancy outcomes, including preeclampsia, I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly, preterm birth and stillbirth, especially among women with severe disease, according to the CDC. With COVID still circulating, pregnant women and their babies who are born too young to be vaccinated are going to be at risk for COVID and for the severe complications, Dr. Jameson said. I'm disappointed that this won't remain an option for pregnant women who would like to protect themselves. Vaccinating pregnant women extends the protection to their unborn until the babies are about 6 months old. From birth to 6 months, those youngest infants face a risk of hospitalization on par with adults ages 65 to 74, according to Dr. Sean O'Leary, a pediatric vaccine expert for the American Academy of Pediatrics. Again, somebody far more qualified to talk about this. So we've already seen this in the last 2 or 3 days. I move quickly toward the mental health aspect, which comes into play on this report, where we've seen RFK say some absolutely atrocious things on this front, things that really infuriate me as somebody who's very passionate about mental health and talks about it a lot. Let's take a look at this quote that RFK Jr. made before the election.
Create these wellness farms where they can go to get off of illegal drugs, off of opiates, but also legal drugs, off of psychiatric drugs if they want to get off of SSRIs, to get off of benzos, to get off of Adderall, and to spend time, as much time as they need, 3 or 4 years if they need it, to learn to get reparented. I'm going to move it off Schedule 1, and I'm going to start collecting taxes on it. That's going to bring in $8.5 billion in revenue. I'm going to dedicate that revenue to creating wellness farms, drug rehabilitation farms in rural areas all over this country. They're going to grow their own food, organic food, high quality food, because a lot of the behavioral issues are food related. A lot of the illnesses are food related. There won't be any cell phones there. There won't be any screens. We're going to reparent people, restore this connection to community. And I'm going to create these wellness farms where they can go to get off of illegal drugs, off of opiates, but also legal drugs, off of psychiatric drugs if they want to get off of SSRIs, to get off of benzos, to get off of Adderall, and to spend time, as much time as they need, 3 or 4 years if they need it, to learn to get reparented,
Okay, I'm just gonna cut off RFK Jr. right there. First of all, we're talking about sending people to camps who are potentially on things like SSRIs or Adderall, and we're looping it into the same conversation. All three of those medications he mentioned in the beginning: SSRIs, Adderall, and benzodiazepines. We're looping them all in the same conversation. That makes no sense. Okay, first of all, SSRIs are not addictive, not obviously don't have the same potential addictive properties as something like benzodiazepines or Adderall. And they're also some of the safest drugs we have. Again, regardless of what I'm saying or he's saying, I wish people would listen to doctors on this because this is absurdity. And number two, in regards to the mental health things, like you getting off of your phone and being sent to a camp is not going to solve problems that relate to brain chemistry. He mentions things like Adderall, something that's prescribed for ADHD, right? Any, again, actual doctor or psychiatrist would tell you that ADHD is mainly going to be genetic, right? A lot of people who are born with ADHD, we do brain scans of these individuals, and their frontal lobe, for example, can be literally built different, if I may, built different. And so the idea that you can rip people off Adderall who have ADHD and send them to a camp and they're going to reconnect with communities and what's causing their ADHD is all food related is just absurd. There's a reasonable conversation to be had in this country about overprescription of things like Adderall or benzodiazepines or just drugs in general. The opiate epidemic, that's a reasonable conversation to have. I don't think we should shut down those conversations. But we took step one and then we went straight into left field. Things that could get people hurt, people killed, and things that, again, are coming from the mouth of somebody who has no medical degree. It genuinely infuriates me. This topic specifically infuriates me. So those are some of the already negative things we're seeing from RFK Jr. And we loop all the way back to this bombshell report because this is crazy. RFK Jr. says his Make America Healthy Again Commission report harnesses, quote, the gold standard of science, citing more than 500 studies and other sources to back up its claims. Those citations, though, are rife with errors from broken links to misstated conclusions. 7 of the cited sources don't appear to exist at all. Epidemiologist Catherine Keyes is listed in the MAHA report as the first author of a study on anxiety in adolescents. When NOTUS, the group who's releasing this report, reached out to her this week, she was surprised to hear of the citation. She does study mental health and substance use, she said, but she didn't write the paper listed. Quote, the paper cited is not a real paper that I or my colleagues were involved with. Keyes told NOTUS via email, we've certainly done research on this topic, but did not publish a paper in JAMA Pediatrics on this topic with that co-author group or with that title. It's not clear that anyone wrote the study cited in the MAHA report. The citation refers to a study titled, quote, changes in mental health and substance abuse among U.S. adolescents during the COVID-19 pandemic, along with a non-functional link to the study's digital object identifier. And this goes on to explain that essentially this study doesn't exist. That's insanity. Again, you're releasing a report at the highest levels of federal government that could get people seriously injured. Or killed. This is what happens when, again, we have somebody leading these departments who is not a doctor. It's genuinely outrageous. As the Trump administration cuts research funding for federal health agencies and academic institutions and rejects the scientific consensus on issues like vaccines and gender-affirming care, the issues with its much-heralded MAHA report can indicate lessened concern for scientific accuracy at the highest levels of federal government. As I'm recording this, the Department of Health and Human Services did not respond to a request for comment on the report citations and consistencies. Of course, I'm sure we'll hear something later from this administration, some BS saying like, who knows, whatever, just making something up. And my hope is that people continue to scream and yell about this and it doesn't just get pushed under in the 24-hour news cycle. But the anxiety study wasn't the only one the report cites that appears to be mysteriously absent from the scientific literature. A section describing the, quote, corporate capture of media highlights 2 studies that it said are broadly illustrative of how a rise in direct-to-consumer drug advertisements have has led to more prescriptions being written for ADHD medications and antidepressants for kids. The catch? Neither of these studies is anywhere to be found. Here are the two citations. Those articles don't appear in the table of contents for the journals listed in the citations. A spokesperson for the Virginia Commonwealth University, where psychiatric researcher Robert L. Feindling, I believe, currently teaches, confirmed to NOTUS that he never authored such an article. The author of the first study doesn't appear to be a real ADHD researcher at all, at least not one with a Google Scholar profile. In another section titled American Children on Too Much Medicine, a Recent and Emerging Crisis, the report claims that 25 to 40% of mild cases of asthma are overprescribed. But searching Google for the exact title of the paper it cites to back up that figure leads to only one result: the Maha report, right? That's obviously very circular. The report doesn't exist. The study's supposed first author denied writing it or ever working with the other listed authors. He pointed to similar research he's conducted, but said even if the Maha report cited that study correctly, its conclusions are, quote, clearly an overgeneralization of the findings. Quote, it's a tremendous leap of faith to generalize from a study in one Medicaid managed care program in Texas using 2011 to 2015 data to national care patterns in 2025, he said in an email. Spread across the footnotes of the 73-page document, those missing papers are listed alongside dozens of citations with more mundane errors like broken links, missing or incorrect authors, and wrong issue numbers. They also found serious issues with how the report interpreted some of the existing studies it cites. In one section about mental health medication, which Kennedy has railed against for years, the report cites a review paper it claims shows that therapy alone is as or more effective than psychiatric medicine. But one of that paper's statisticians told NOTUS that conclusion doesn't make sense, given their study didn't even attempt to measure or compare therapy's effectiveness as a mental health treatment. Quote, we did not include psychotherapy in our review. We only compared the effectiveness of new generation antidepressants against each other and against placebo. And this goes on. Another paper, another quote. Genuinely infuriating and absurd. And my hope is that this doesn't just immediately have the MAGA world and the White House and RFK Jr. saying, oh, wrong, ignore it, like they're all fake news, and pushing it under. And we'll continue to push toward the direction of the Maha report that is citing so much garbage, things that could get people hurt. Again, relating to some fields that I know you and I care about, like, science, vaccines, a field that I am very passionate about, like mental health and, medications relating to mental health. So I'm really hoping that people, spread the word, let your friends and family know about this. Fight every single day. I hope you know your voice is a lot more powerful than you may think it is. Keep yelling, keep screaming. We're going to get through this time. And my hope is, again, we're not going to let people like RFK Jr. dictate health policy in the United States for that long. I appreciate everybody sticking with me throughout this video. It really, really means the world. The love on this channel has been insane, and I appreciate it so much. If you're from Adam Mockler's channel, I really appreciate you coming over here, checking this out, and subscribing. It means the absolute world. I can't say it enough. There will be links in the description to this report and all of my other social media accounts. I post on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, all the rest. You can check me out there. I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video.